In an abandoned farm, a terrifying humanoid monster slowly crawls out. His dried-out body looked very weak and struggled with every crawl. However, after consuming a few worms on the ground, he regains its strength and comes back to life. This monster is none other than the legendary immortal creeper. After 23 years, the horrifying creeper has awakened once again, beginning another 23-day bloodthirsty hunt. The first to fall victim is a young man driving a sports car. Needing to relieve himself, he heads into the depths of the forest, unaware that he has become the creeper's prey. After a hearty meal, the creeper is fully rejuvenated. He then finds his beloved big truck, grabs his iconic battle axe, and officially begins his killing spree. Meanwhile, the town is hosting a grand monster cosplay show. The event is held here because of the local legends about the creeper, with the organizers deliberately choosing this location. Rumor has it that today is the day of the creeper's resurrection, making it the perfect date for the event. Many young people have come from afar, but they all dismiss the stories of the creeper as mere myth. Among them are Chase and his girlfriend, Lane. People dressed as various monsters dance and celebrate, unaware that the real monster is about to arrive. Just then, a man suddenly bursts into the crowd, screaming. A bloody sword is lodged in his body, and he collapses onto a bench, losing consciousness immediately. This shocks everyone present. As medical personnel rush in to provide aid, Brent suddenly stands up, laughing. It turns out it was all just a prank. Little does he know that this prank is about to become a terrifying reality. After scaring the crowd, Brent smokes a cigarette and heads into the woods to take a leak. The creeper despises such unhygienic behavior, so he appears behind Brent, grabs him by the neck, lifts him up, and hangs him on an iron hook attached to a tree. Before leaving, the creeper doesn't forget to finish him off. 2 darts made of human bones pierce Brent, killing him instantly. Meanwhile, Chase and Lane, enjoying some snacks, arrived at a dart-throwing booth. The owner, Stu, patiently taught Lane how to throw darts, even claiming that these darts were handcrafted by the creeper himself. They thought Stu was joking, unaware that these darts were indeed used by the creeper. Following Stu's guidance, they then arrived at a large raffle event. The winner of the raffle would get to participate in a special program arranged by the organizers, a thrilling haunted house adventure. It's said that the creeper once resided in that very house. Chase and Lane were lucky enough to win the grand prize. Chase, exceptionally excited, pulled Lane towards the backstage area, but Lane was reluctant to go. Lane had never been so lucky before, and the idea of a haunted house adventure scared her a little, but Chase ignored Lane's reluctance and forcibly dragged her backstage. They learned that they needed to sign a waiver before setting off, and that their adventure would be live-streamed. This made Lane even more uneasy, but Chase didn't think twice and wrote down his name. And not wanting to spoil the fun, Lane reluctantly signed as well. They were then led to a car headed to the haunted house, with the driver being none other than Stu from the dart booth. However, none of them realized they were already falling into a carefully crafted trap set by the organizers. At the same time, the terrifying creeper also set out in his truck. As Chase and the group arrived at their destination, the creeper appeared nearby and set his sights on Chase and Lane. The creeper's target was Lane. At this point, the cameraman had already wandered off into the cemetery and noticed a strange woman in a black robe. This woman was actually the MC from the raffle, and she was one of the organizers behind the scenes. Curious, the cameraman followed her, not knowing that danger was lurking. Meanwhile, Lane, upset over Chase getting too close to the host, Carrie, angrily walked into the cemetery. Chase followed, trying to explain, but Lane wouldn't forgive him. Finally, Chase pulled out his trump card. He took out a ring he had prepared in advance and proposed to Lane in the cemetery. Just as Lane turned around, she was grabbed by the creeper, who flew in and abducted her. At this point, with no sign of the others, the remaining group could only search the cemetery for them. To their horror, they found the cameraman's dropped camera on the ground, with blood stains on it, which made them uneasy. They suspected that the cameraman might have encountered a large carnivorous animal. As they stood in confusion, Chase came running frantically and told them that his girlfriend had been taken by a flying monster. It was then they realized that the creature that attacked the cameraman wasn't a beast. Desperate to save her, Chase chased in the direction where the creature flew, urging the others to call the police immediately. However, Chase hadn't run far before he tripped over something and fell to the ground. When he turned to see what it was, he discovered it was the corpse of the cameraman. The others arrived and witnessed this horrifying scene. Thinking about the danger Lane might be in, they quickly ran toward the haunted house. As soon as they entered the hall, the door behind them suddenly slammed shut. The door was locked tightly by 3 figures in black robes. These 3 were the organizers of the event and fanatical followers of the Creeper. They deliberately planned everything to select suitable prey for the Creeper, luring them here to offer them up for the Creeper to kill. Even the staff accompanying them were completely unaware. At this moment, Lane was already firmly bound to a stone slab by the Creeper. He looked excitedly at his prey, then decisively picked up a small knife and stabbed Lane in the abdomen. Meanwhile, the trapped group began searching for an exit, only to find that all the doors and windows were locked. Everyone turned their anger towards Stu, believing he must know something. But Stu, merely an employee, insisted he knew nothing. An intense argument broke out between them. In desperation, Stu pulled out a gun and fired a shot. The sound of the gunshot reached the Creeper, who immediately stopped what he was doing and leapt to the ground. The Creeper spread his wings, let out a roar, and prepared to deal with the people inside the haunted house first. Lane narrowly escaped the ordeal. Soon, a knock on the door shattered the silence inside the house. The Creeper was trying to break in, terrifying them, so they quickly ran upstairs. As they opened a door, they were horrified to find a mangled corpse hanging from the ceiling. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was Brent, the prankster from the party. Before they could recover from the shock, the Creeper smashed through the window. Flapping his wings, the Creeper surveyed his prey like a grim reaper. Seeing this, Stu immediately pulled the trigger, but the Creeper, with his immortal body, was unaffected by ordinary bullets. The Creeper then threw his axe, letting out a piercing screech. Seeing Creeper approaching, Chase quickly picks up the axe and rushes towards Creeper. While wielding the axe, he questions the whereabouts of his girlfriend. Meanwhile, the other 3 took the opportunity to open the door. Seeing Chase gradually gaining the upper hand, forcing the Creeper to retreat, they quickly pulled Chase away. They were afraid that if they hesitated even a moment longer, Chase might kill the Creeper right there. The Creeper finally caught a breath, decisively discarding his damaged arm, then tore off an arm from one of the corpses and began devouring it. Moments later, a brand new arm grew back. This was the Creeper's secret to immortality. No matter how severe the injury, he could regenerate by consuming human flesh. Meanwhile, the injured Lane, after much effort, managed to grab a nearby dagger and cut the ropes binding her. Freed from the stone slab, Lane also picked up a few darts for self-defense. She noticed an air duct above and used a table as a makeshift ladder, escaping through the vent. While fleeing, Carrie unfortunately got separated from the others. She hid in a room and took out her phone to call for help. However, she realized there was no signal. In despair, Carrie could only cry helplessly, but suddenly, after sacrificing a handful of her hair, Carrie finally broke free from her binds and quickly ran downstairs. The Creeper sniffed Carrie's hair and let out a perverse, twisted smile. Carrie finally reunited with the remaining group on the first floor. They hid in a room and began discussing how to deal with the Creeper. Suddenly, strange noises came from above, scaring everyone into silence as the air duct above them collapsed. Lane, who had escaped, fell down. Lane told the group they needed to leave immediately, otherwise, the haunted house would become their tomb. Without a moment's hesitation, they quickly left the room, intending to escape from upstairs. They opened a room door and saw a telephone. Jamie immediately rushed to use it to call the police but accidentally stepped into a bear trap on the floor. The excruciating pain in his leg made Jamie scream in agony. Fortunately, the phone was functional, and Chase successfully dialed the emergency number. However, before he could say much, the Creeper snatched the phone away. The group had no choice but to leave the room and return to the first floor. At this point, they realized that even escaping the haunted house might not save them from the Creeper, so they decided to stop running and wait for the police to arrive. But Creeper didn't give them a chance to catch their breath. He broke the door of the first floor from outside in the next second. The others immediately turned around and ran away. Only Carrie was paralyzed with fear. Carrie struggled to get up and escape, but she couldn't dodge the hammer thrown by the Creeper and was killed on the spot. The others could only hide in a nearby room, watching helplessly as Carrie's body was dragged away. When they came to their senses, they noticed a strange stone behind them, with various items on the table, as if for some mysterious ritual. Together, They pushed aside the large stone and discovered a dark, eerie basement below. The stench of rotting corpses hit them, and countless heavily decomposed bodies came into view. It was clear that this was the work of those extreme cultists, who had been feeding live humans to the creeper. This practice was even more horrifying than the creeper itself. Realizing they couldn't just wait around, Lane decided to take the initiative. The group of 4 split up, planning to lure the creeper out and find a way to kill him. Stu and Jamie were the bait, and they fearfully made their way to the second floor and started looking around for creeper. They opened a door, unaware that the creeper was hiding behind it. Creeper beat them senseless. Jamie died instantly and Stu was seriously injured, but the creeper wasn't in a hurry to kill Stu. Instead, he calmly put on a vinyl record, ready to savor the hunt at his leisure. As Stu was knocked down again, he grabbed a sharp object from the ground and stabbed the creeper in the thigh, then picked up a nearby phonograph and smashed it over the creeper's head. Stu taunted the creeper as he escaped, trying to lure him downstairs. Seeing the broken phonograph pieces enraged the creeper, who immediately chased after him. Next, it was Lane's turn to act as bait, as the creeper's chosen prey. She easily drew his attention. Meanwhile, Chase and Stu sneaked upstairs, heading to the roof. They planned to lure the creeper outside and then use a cross to finish him off. The plan went smoothly, and the creeper was successfully lured out. Just as the creeper grabbed Lane, preparing to feast on her, Lane quickly pulled out 2 darts from behind her and stabbed them fiercely into the creeper's head. The pain forced the creeper to drop his prey. Taking the opportunity, Lane distanced herself and threw the remaining 2 darts, hitting the creeper in both eyes. Blinded, the creeper flailed around like a headless fly. At this moment, Chase and Stu finally pulled out the cross from the roof. Seeing the timing was right, Lane quickly signaled them to drop the cross. The cross struck precisely, piercing the creeper's head and pinning him to the ground. But before they could celebrate, a swarm of crows suddenly darkened the sky, attacking Chase and Stu on the roof in a frenzy. In the chaos, Stu accidentally stepped off the edge and fell to his death. Chase, however, managed to escape back into the haunted house. He hurried to the first floor, pulling Lane inside to avoid the crows' assault. The crows didn't follow them inside. Instead, they surrounded the creeper. When they looked back outside, both the creeper and the crows had vanished, leaving only the cross on the ground. Chase then helped Lane out of the haunted house. 2 police cars arrived belatedly, and the officers ushered them into the cars. However, the creeper, aided by the crows, had retreated to the basement where Lane had escaped and was resurrecting himself once more. It seemed the 23-day bloodbath was far from over.